I'm going to start with our Alzheimer's Association community educator. This is Suzanne Pritchard. She is actually in occupational therapy, and she worked in practice for, I'll just say, double-digit years. And she is, I'm still older than her. And she is now, though, I think very exciting, she is teaching in the occupational therapy doctoral program at IU. So she must be really, really intelligent. And so we're very happy to have her here. And I'll introduce Bianca later, but could I add the personal part?
Absolutely, yeah,
so
sure.
She has two boys, 9 and 12.
10 and 11.
10 and 11, who are quite active. They like to do mountain biking and other kinds of sports, and she said she does try to read fiction when she has time. But she is a community educator for the Alzheimer's Association, has been doing it for a while. So again, thank you for coming. We really
Thanks for
appreciate
having
it.
me.
And
Yep.
the stage is yours.
Thank you. Thank you. Oh, wow, clapping. This is great. Is this okay? On and good? Okay. I usually do not have a microphone in class. I'm just projecting my voice. If anybody in the back, just do this if it's too much. Thank you so much for having me tonight. I love doing what I do for the Alzheimer's Association. I've only been doing it for about a year and a half, but it's been such a great experience for me because I get to meet people like you. I encourage questions, comments, anything. Interrupt me at any time. You can do a hand or you can just say, hey, I got something to say. So I really would encourage questions and thoughts as we go through this. I do really enjoy this particular presentation because it's something that is applicable to if you're 2 or if you're 92 or anywhere in between. So it looks like no one's 2 in here and maybe not even 92. So that's it. But if you are, fantastic and welcome. So this is the healthy living for your brain and body. The way this is going to roll is I'm going to talk for maybe 25 minutes or so, and then again questions at the end or during, whatever you guys want. This information I think is spot on for anybody who is continually taking a breath, and that is all of us. And nothing in this is going to be necessarily shocking, but I think it's really applicable, and it's great to kind of review some of the things that we know, and hopefully I'll be able to add a few things to your brains. So our learning objectives tonight are pretty simple. So we're going to identify the reasons for taking care of ourselves. So we know, in general why we want to take care of ourselves, but we're going to go through what some of the newest research that we have, that in general what the research is saying. So what we know, and then what we can do for ourselves to take care of our physical health, diet and nutrition, our cognitive activities, and then our socializing too. And this group, I mean, you guys are already ahead of the game here. If you're part of this group and you're here, then you're doing a lot of what's actually already in here. I was telling Paula earlier that my aunt needs something like this so greatly. She's in her 80s and she's a little isolated, and she doesn't live in town, or I would tell her this is where you're coming. So I think this group is fantastic. So our learning objectives, like I said, are going to be able to go through these 4 areas. We're going to use it like a little pie. And you'll see me kind of flipping back and forth between my 2 screens just so I make sure I get all my points in. So as we age, we're all aging, right? There's a few things that are contributing to this. Genes is one of them. We can't do a lot about that. We're given what we're given, right? And a lot of it is normal aging. This is not what I was born with. I've decided that I'm going to stop chasing my light brown hair, and this is what has come my way. Fine. My wrinkles were not here. You're shaking your head. Thank you very much. I did not used to wear these glasses, but my eyes are starting to go, so I can kind of see this screen. I can't really see this screen. These are all normal things, normal aging stuff. I also have certain genes that I was given to me from my parents. The things that we can control more are going to be our environment and our lifestyle choices. Even if you are predisposed to something in your genes, in your medical history, such as cardiovascular disease, there are obviously things that one can do to minimize those things coming our way. So let's keep moving through this and talk in general about the brain. I do love the brain. I will not bore you with intimate details of the brain that I like to talk about, but in general, this is going to be our control center of our body. So there's 100 billion nerves or neurons that are responsible for everything that we do, our thoughts, our movements, our feelings, and these neurons branch and make like trees, if you will, in our nervous system, going down through our spinal cord. These signals are, like I said, how we operate as human beings. Alzheimer's disease destroys those cells that are making up those branches. And so as the disease progresses, and sorry, if you're wondering what this is, it's part of the microphone. I just felt it and I realized I should tell you what this is. That's what that is, okay. So as that disease progresses, it destroys those cells and it interrupts all sorts of functioning. Now, we're not going to spend too much on the Alzheimer's disease in general, but I do want to cover that because I think there's some important pieces to that. So we've talked a little bit about the brain. The heart-brain connection is the next piece of what I want to talk about with the body. So they're very interrelated. So what you can do to protect your heart is going to help protect your brain. And I love this down here where it says the brain needs blood flow. 25% of our blood with every heartbeat goes to the brain. It's kind of a greedy little structure, isn't it? We have a lot of structures, a lot of things going on, but it's like, nope, I'm going to take 25% of that. So if we're taking care of our heart, we're also taking care of our brain. Did I hear that you guys do like weight checks and blood pressure and all that? Okay, fantastic. So you've already covered one of my slides. Well done. Let's move to the Alzheimer's piece of it. So again, this could be review, but dementia is really the umbrella term. So there's many, many different types of dementias. There's Lewy body dementia, there's frontotemporal dementia, there's vascular dementia, and there's Alzheimer's type. Alzheimer's type is the most common of all the dementias. It's about 60 to 80% of the dementias. Dementia is going to be caused by many different things, and it's not part of normal aging. So normal aging is going to be you forget something and then you remember about it later. Or you can't remember somebody's name, but then when you hear it again, you're like, oh yeah, right. So that's all normal stuff. When you start to experience memory loss and things that interrupt your daily, very typical functions, that becomes abnormal. And that's when we would say that those symptoms are not normal and that you need to consult a physician. So the risks for Alzheimer's and any dementia are going to be age. So as we just go down our continuum of age, as we get older, that's a risk factor. Genetics, so if you have someone in your family that has had that, that's correlated with a higher possibility that you would get it. A head injury, cardiovascular factors. So again, if your heart is not healthy, it's potential that it's going to affect your brain and that might cause a dementia. And I think this is really interesting. I'll touch on it a little bit, but fewer years of formal education. There's some mixed research about that, whether the education needs to be formal or the education can come in various informal ways, like what you're doing tonight, is all really good for the brain. So here's our little pie, and we've got our 4 pieces we're going to talk about: the physical health, the social engagement, diet, nutrition, and cognitive ability. The physical health piece, let's start there. So what we know is our cardiovascular activity is going to reduce your risk of cognitive decline. So how many people have gone to their doctor and they're like, say something like, well, at your age, you ought to, right? Please shake your head yes, or nod your head yes, okay, good. At your age, we think you need to be doing so much exercise. The jury's out a little bit as to whether you go regular exercise, which I like to do, or this vigorous exercise, which my 20-something-year-old, she's shaking her head like, vigorous, no way. That's okay, that's okay. I'm gonna go with the research that says regular exercise is just as important. The idea is you're increasing your blood flow. So we go back to what's happening to your heart. It's pumping, your brain's taking 25% of that every time, and that increased activity matters. There's really no single, this says no single recipe. There's no single solution to having, good physical or cardiac health, but there's several things to do. So the first thing, and this is the crux of occupational therapy. And you'll hear me speak as the Alzheimer's rep and as an OT, if you don't mind. So do something that you like. Has anybody ever tried something that you don't like? And then yes, can you give me an example? What's something, tell me, something you ate, some exercise you tried, tell me. Running. Okay, yes. People are like, okay, now I'm a runner, slow runner, and people are like, well, what do you run for? Well, I'm a weirdo. I actually like it. But when I see folks that are running that don't like it, it's miserable. Your knees hurt, everything is shaking, you gotta, your hair's in your face, you're sweating. So don't run, right? Don't run. Find something else that you like. I say this to my children. I'll serve them, actually one kid really likes broccoli. I don't know how that happened. He likes broccoli. The other one does not like broccoli. I'm like, that's fine. Don't eat the broccoli. Let's eat a vegetable that you like. What is it? Of course, he's like, chocolate chip cookies? No, that's not quite the vegetable we're looking for. But OTs, it's all about do what you like to do. Find something you like to do. Start out really small, okay? So if you happen to enjoy walking and you haven't done a long walk in a long time, well, don't worry about it. Go to the end of the block and back because it's better than what you did the day before, which might have been nothing. So start off small, move safely. Okay, this sounds really obvious, but a lot of times my dad would get on his bike without a helmet. I'm like, Pop, no, you're 72. I'm gonna need you to put your helmet on. Let's be smart and safe. Or, you're up, doing your yard work, which is great exercise, and folks are up on a ladder, and like the ladder's all wobbly, and it's, like stuff's falling off of it. Let's move safely through our journey of physical health. You want to make sure you do get your heart rate up. So you don't have to be vigorous, but you want to make sure that you are experiencing some type of increased heart rate. Ask your friends to join you. Get a bud, because then you're taking care of the other piece of the pie, which is that socialization piece. And then of course, we always want to say, check with your doctor before you really get started with much of anything, because we want to make sure everybody stays safe and healthy. I love this lady. I don't think I could do that. I'm really impressed with her abilities. She's clearly into yoga. A couple more things we can do. Stop smoking, avoid alcohol. These are not new pieces for what you guys know. Get adequate sleep. I have found that with my clients, as they get older, and there isn't a reason for an alarm, or there isn't a reason to go to bed early, their sleep patterns get a little wonky. So then all of a sudden your night, which used to be, let's say 11 to 7, is now, sometimes it's 2:30 in the morning. And then you're gonna sleep till 11. And then the night, then maybe you have a tiresome day and then you try to go to bed a little earlier, going to bed at 8:15, and then you're up at 3. And then, so that's when that sleep, even though it might be the same amount of time, isn't as fulfilling. So try to do that, go to bed roughly at the same time, get up roughly at the same time as well. Avoiding head injuries. I mean, I almost laughed that this is in here. Do we all know we should avoid a head injury? Right, okay. Managing stress. So again, thinking about things that make you feel good, things that you want to do, things that can alleviate that stress in your life, which might be socializing, exercising. Treating depression is really key. In my clinic, I would say 75% of my folks that come in that are over the age of 65 are on some type of antidepressant. I think that's fantastic because sometimes as we get older, experiencing depression becomes more common. We start to lose people in our lives. We start to lose maybe the ability to do some things, and that makes us sad. So treating the depression and getting in front of that is also a really important way of making your brain healthy. And then visiting your doctor regularly, of course. So this is the slide you guys took care of for me. Blood pressure, blood sugar, weight, cholesterol. Are you guys getting all of those things done? Oh my gosh. Okay, that's great. What's that? Oh, I don't even know what that is. Oh, okay, all right, good. Well, then great. We got to know what these numbers are, right? We've got to know what these numbers are because we have to know if we have to treat one of them. And these are all really treatable pieces. Blood sugar is linked to cognitive, high blood sugar, so those that have diabetes, is linked to higher cognitive decline and dementias. We don't have a lot of evidence about cholesterol, but we know that our blood flows better when we have the right amount of cholesterol in our bodies, which goes back to the heart, which goes up to your brain. So all very well connected. Okay, so moving on to our diet and nutrition. What we know is that what is good for the heart is going to be good for the brain. So these nutritious foods that we want to eat, they're going to fuel our brain power. And there's some dietary guidelines. Again, nothing's going to be too shocking. We're going to go over some of them that can reduce your risk of not only heart disease, cancer, Parkinson's disease, stroke, diabetes. And those stroke and diabetes in particular are, again, go back to related to your heart health and how your blood is flowing. Has anybody heard of, it's called, I have to actually read it, it's called the DASH diet. It stands for Dietary Approaches to Stop Hypertension. You have? Do you try to follow it? Yeah. Okay. I had not heard of that before. I know, isn't that awful? I do this presentation. I've never heard of it. But it makes a lot of sense in that the other piece that they mentioned, not just the DASH diet, but a Mediterranean diet, they incorporate basically these pieces here into your regular dietary stuff. Now, does anybody have a hard time getting in enough fruits and vegetables? Really? Really? Yeah? Okay. So I read something one time that said, if you can incorporate just one fruit or vegetable, even a tiniest smidgen of it, in every meal that you have, I don't include snacks, because sometimes you just want a Twinkie or something, I don't know. But every meal that you have, incorporate produce, and suddenly you've increased your volume by 50%. So if you're a scrambled egg eater in the morning, think about adding some type of vegetable into your scramble. Now I also like to dash on some cheese, which has some high saturated fat, but it's got protein in it, so I say it's okay. But getting those fruits and vegetables in is really, really important, and it's hard to do, I think, especially if you don't like fruit or you don't like vegetables. And even though we're adults and we know they're good for us, sometimes they are hard for us to incorporate. But if you can just try to do that little bit every meal. So then, of course, nuts, beans, and whole grains, lean meats, fish, poultry, and we want to avoid these saturated fats, processed foods, deep fried foods, of course, although sometimes an onion ring is just right on, but it's not great for the brain. There's been a lot of information lately about processed foods and increased with colon cancer, and they're still trying to figure that out, and a lot of younger folks are getting colon cancer. Have you all read any of those studies? It's something crazy. Like over the last 20 years, people under the age of 50 have gone up like 51% in colon cancer diagnoses. So they don't know exactly why. They're trying to figure that out. Processed foods keeps coming up. So here's what I've noticed with some of my older adult clients and folks that no longer have school-aged children in the house. You tend to cook for less people. Instead of cooking for a family of 4 or 5, maybe you're cooking for 2, maybe you're cooking for 1. And I think it's hard to go to the store, spend a lot of money on produce, which is good for you, and then you don't get it all in, and then you throw it away. So we go to our processed packaged foods that are convenient and easy, but don't always work so great for our body. So, trying to figure out can you get certain fruits and vegetables that you know that you like and eat, make a point to eat those really quickly, and maybe have the things that will keep, get some green bananas. I know that your bananas will last longer through the week, but those processed foods are really tricky, and they're the culprits are a lot of those prepackaged, ready to go kind of frozen meals. Any questions so far? Any more comments? Okay. Yes.
In the nursing home, the diet is atrocious. I mean, these older people, and then I saw what they would feed my dad and whatever. So it's just, I wish the nursing homes and those older facilities would start incorporating.
I know,
this
it's
stuff.
a really
horrible.
good point. And I
Yeah.
think that there are budgetary limits, obviously, and there's like sort of feeding the masses, but it's really counterintuitive to what we're trying to do to age healthily. And if we already are, if you're in a nursing home, then something is wrong, right? You're either fighting an illness, or maybe you've had an injury or a surgery, and so that eating healthily is extra important. So that's a really good point. And my kids would agree about the school food. Yes.
So kind of along that line too, I do some work at one of the food pantries, and they get a lot of handouts, but a lot of it's processed foods.
Yes.
So, once again, we're maybe giving food to people that need it, but what food?
Right. And there's a link between folks that are at a lower socioeconomic status and obesity. And it's not because they're necessarily overeating, it's because they're eating the wrong foods, but those are the foods that are less expensive. I always love when I see the community gardens, where particularly in areas where it might be considered a food desert, they don't have good grocery stores, that these neighbors can go and they just pick right off the vines. I think those are fantastic. And if we just need about 150,000 more of them, we'll be okay. Yes, those are really good points about the diet. Yes. Okay, so cognitive activity. So when we're talking about cognitive activity, we're talking about anything that's keeping our minds active, like what you guys are doing right now. And just like they would say for your exercise being vigorous, they say that it's important that your cognitive activities are vigorous at times as well. So the more we use our brain, like a muscle, the more that it's going to work for us, and the increased blood flow. And there's all sorts of studies that say if you're keeping your mind active by doing, taking a class, coming to something like this, doing learning a new skill. One of the suggestions in my notes was like, make a piece of furniture. I'm like, what? What? I can barely put together a paper airplane. So, but so something that would challenge you, that you would really enjoy, making it vigorous enough that you're creating blood flow and your cognitive skills get even exponentially greater. So folks that are doing those things score better on memory tests. So we know that really getting those mentally stimulating activities are really important. This engaging in formal education will keep your brain healthy. Again, the studies are a little out on that as to whether it really needs to be a formal education or not. Some people believe that it's just due to the education is like, creating sort of a more robust network of communities and discussions and things like that. But you can find those things for cheaper and that are just as stimulating in other areas, like the one that you guys are in right now. So what can we do? We want to read books and articles that challenge and inspire you. So you want to do puzzles and play games that are challenging for you. Now, I love a good Sudoku. Is that how you say it? Sudoku? But I like the easy ones because I want the satisfaction of being able to do it. It's probably not doing much for my brain, right? So do you like them too? Yeah. Okay, do you do them every day? Okay, do you do the hard ones? No. Oh. Okay. So I would encourage you, do the ones that are hard and see, and really, so you love them, right? So just kind of up the ante just a little bit. Same way with, reading books and things that you love. Like I love my fiction books. I like my books that like I can read and then my kid comes in and he says something to me, I'm like, and then I can go right back to what I'm doing, But I also think it's important to read books that are maybe have more like history to them. Or maybe if you're really into science, something that has some like science pieces to it and really expand your repertoire that way. This learning new skills and hobbies is really important. So once someone has the diagnosis of dementia, learning new skills is extremely difficult, if not impossible, depending on where they are in that cycle. So if you're aging healthily, really take the opportunity to learn new skills because you can. And then that engaging in ongoing learning. And I wanted to tell you a quick story about this ongoing learning. I had an experience this past spring where, so some girlfriends of mine, there were 7 of us, we went down to North Carolina, and there's a folk school down there called John C. Campbell. Anybody ever heard of that? Have you been?
I haven't, but I'm just learning to read and I want to go.
Oh, you gotta go. Okay, you gotta go. You gotta go. And then I'll have to come. Have you gone? When did you go?
It was many years ago. But I took harp lessons down there.
It's the
So,
harp
yeah,
lessons.
it's a fabulous place. You gotta go.
Yeah, it's so great. You have to go. So 7 of us went. I took a drawing class. I should have brought you guys my drawings. They're horrible. They're so bad. But I really immersed myself in this weekend. You can go for 2 days. You can go for a week. We did, and we're going back this spring, and I'm doing birds. I'm going birding. So I'm walking around with a bunch of people and some binoculars. And so I feel like that is something that I would not do on my own. And I'm very fortunate that not only do I have the resources to be able to go, because you got to pay to get there, but that I have this group going with me. But it's so exciting to be part of something new and learning a skill. I mean, you can do, like some of my friends are doing jewelry making. You can make furniture there, and you start by chopping down the tree that you're going to use to make your furniture. And it's like a beginner level. It's crazy. It's John C. Campbell Folk School. I'm not the representative, but I should be. Okay, so that's just an example of some ongoing learning. So social engagement. This is the area that has the least amount of research to it, but there's enough research sort of A equals B and B equals C that we know A equals C. Okay, so it's associated with longer living and fewer disabilities. Staying engaged in the community offers you a way to maintain your skills and learn new skills. And then remaining socially active and mentally active does support this brain and possibly the offsetting the onset of dementia. One of the things that was really difficult in my practice, because one of the things that I did mostly was I'm a driver rehab specialist. And so I would evaluate the older adult to determine if they should still be driving or not. And one of the most painful conversations to have is when it's time for someone to stop driving. And so what I say to my students and what I say to the folks in my clinic is I say, it's not, if you have dementia, it's not about if you stop driving, it's when you stop driving. And we've got all this amazing medicine happening now, right? We're living longer, and the likelihood that we will outlive our ability to drive is really high. But when someone stops driving, what happens? They become isolated. And we don't live in a city, unfortunately, that's very convenient to taking public transportation. We don't necessarily feel safe. I mean, I saw this one woman waiting on the corner of Illinois and 12th Street, and she had about 16 inches between her and the street. But that's where the bus stop sign was. So we become isolated, and then that increases depression. Sorry, I lost my page, so I'm going to quickly type in my number here. Here we go. So what we can do is staying engaged, even if you or someone you love has to give up their license, to stay engaged, because it's important to our entire being. Visiting with friends and family. Of course, visiting with friends and family. Sometimes that's hard to do because they live out of state. They have crazy schedules. I always tell folks to make a list of the people that you want to see and make dates with those people. Make dates, figure out where that's convenient. Oh, you're working, over there 6 blocks away. Well, I'm going to meet you at the coffee shop 3 blocks away. So visit with family and friends, engaging with others, and I mean, even I'm real chatty. So even in the grocery store, I'm like, do you like that chicken? I mean, I'm that person. So engaging with others, I think, is important too, even if it's a stranger, even if it's somebody that you don't necessarily know. I mean, don't you like to walk into some place and somebody's really nice to you, even though you don't know you? That always feels so good. Like, oh, well, thanks for holding the door for me, stranger. So even those engagements help our brain. Staying involved with the community. These last 3, I really like. Stay involved in the community, volunteer, and join a group or a club, because a lot of these things are free. If you're volunteering and it's not free, you're volunteering for the wrong place. But stay involved, join a group. So if you don't want to spend the money or you don't have the money to spend on something more formal, go find things that are available to you, because there's plenty out there that is free. And now we have now everybody's like zooming in, and we don't really even have to leave places to be social now. I think that's been one bright spot of our pandemic. So putting all these 4 pieces together. So we're taking care of your health, getting moving, you're gonna eat right, or eat better, I like to say, just eat better. Keep your mind active, staying connected with the people that you love and that you like, and combining all 4 of those things together are just really key. So what you can do now, so you're gonna start today. You're laughing. He's like, oh, day's over. Okay, start tomorrow. Start tomorrow, start today. Start small and build on that. Do what you love and stick with it. When I'm teaching these brand new occupational therapists, one of the first things we tell them is it has to be client-centered. If you want the person with their new hip and new knee to do something they don't want to do, why would they do it now that they're in a rehab center? No, you got to do something that you love to do. Make healthy choices. I have found for me personally, if I make a good choice at breakfast, I tend to make better choices throughout the day. So if I start off with waffles and bacon, it might not be so good for the rest of the day. But if I start off with something healthier, make a plan. And so I really mean it when I tell my clients, make a plan about who you want to see and how you want to see them and when you want to see them, and make that happen. Get support from others if needed, and of course have fun. I mean, life should be fun. Being a savvy consumer is important, because we all like to scroll on the internet, right? We all like to junk out for a little bit and find our niches. If it seems too good to be true, it probably is. Doing your own research, so this one says do thorough research. What I would say is if you do a little bit of your own research, you should find that whatever it is that you're interested in that you think sounds really amazing, they've done their research. And that their research is done in really big populations, not 12 people from Wyoming, but really big populations that has been vetted by like a peer review article. So when I say do thorough research, I don't really mean you got to do the research. You got to make sure they've done their research. And you want to consult your reputable folks, so your doctor, your pharmacist, your Alzheimer's Association. Who in here has a primary care doctor that you trust and like? Okay, that's good. Most people. If you don't, I can't stress enough how important that is. And if you could find a doctor that maybe you think is okay, but they've got a really good occupational therapist that they can refer you to, or you really like their nurse or their PA, even the front office staff, if there's somebody there that keeps you coming back, you want to establish a relationship with somebody that you trust while the getting's good. Because then as we age and things happen to us, we've got our go-to person. Lastly, I want to say I'm just checking my time. I think I'm doing okay. Okay. The Alzheimer's Association is here to help even if you or the people you love don't have a diagnosis of Alzheimer's or dementia. There's a 24/7 helpline. That is staffed with master's level therapists. So it's not just Kelsey, who's 17 years old, is trying to get in some of her internship hours. It's folks that really know this and are educated to help when it comes to aging, whether it's with or without dementia. Alz.org is going to be the website, obviously also open 24/7. The Community Resource Finder, so that's a great place to go. That's just, if you just Google Community Resource, I think it's finder.org, I think. It will find the things we're talking about: classes, events, social gatherings, things that might expand your mind, expand your health, expand your social network. The Alz Connected is a discussion board within the Alzheimer's Association, and those are the caretakers of folks that have Alzheimer's, that are living with Alzheimer's. And it's a very robust discussion board and a great place to bounce questions off of. As is the Alzheimer's Navigator, is also within our website, and that is for caretakers who are looking to really try to personalize a plan for their loved one who's dealing with Alzheimer's and dementia. that is the end of the presentation. Does anybody have any more questions or comments? Yes.
So there's something that you talked about that is a little bit. Sure. There's something that you talked about that's a little bit of a hot topic for me. So I would like to amplify.
Did I offend you?
No.
Okay.
I just want to amplify it a little bit.
Okay.
You talked very briefly about sleep.
Sleep.
And the research on sleep and the importance it plays on the physical health of our brains is both fascinating and a little bit frightening. And I don't know if you want to say more about that or if you'd like me to.
Well,
or...
no, keep going. Tell me what you got.
So, like you, I could nerd out on the brain a little bit, but what I have been led to believe by people who do peer-reviewed research
Yep.
in this field is that sleep at every age plays an important part in repairing the physical structure of our brain every evening. Tau and beta amyloid plaques and that sort of stuff. So, and that's as nerdy as I'll get, unless you want to talk afterwards. But especially as hustle culture and burning the candle at both ends has become more and more part of our culture. I think a lot of us think, I'm always fascinated by language, and so you hear things like, I'll sleep when I'm dead. Right? There is no sleep bank. And so whether you're 12 or 92,
Yes.
not getting enough sleep is something that you will pay for sooner or later.
That's
and
right.
so getting healthy sleep hygiene is just horribly overlooked. And so I just wanted to bring that
Yes.
to people's attention.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. That is absolutely true. And at any age. And my understanding is the same that you've expressed, that you can't catch up on your sleep. If you're sleep deprived for a decade, well, then you're just always sort of behind. It's never too late to get started with good sleep. But yes, it's like a head to toe repair system. I do think it's interesting that after all of this time, there really isn't any evidence to say exactly why humans need sleep. It's there, it's like we know we need it, but what is it that causes us to fall asleep and need sleep? We know why we need it, we just don't know why our bodies have to have it. But it's so important. Thank you for those comments. Great. Yes?
I'm getting my answers.
I know, okay, she's getting her steps in.
So what just came to mind was maybe our sleep helps us to deal with our stress.
Yes.
Because we do a lot of dreaming and we do a lot of REM sleep. But just think about that a little bit, and it'd be a great conversation for us to have someday. Because I got education in stress management, but if I had a really bad night last night with my sleep, and today was crazy, so.
Yes. Yeah. It can affect every aspect of your day. I mean, as a parent of younger children, if I'm sleep deprived, I'm not nearly as patient.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Well, right, and I won't go into a whole bunch, but we had the session on sleep, and there are the different stages of sleep, and you need to get through those more than once, through the night, and it helps repair everything in your body. I mean, it is so crucial, so I'm glad you brought it up. And
Absolutely. Thank you all very much. This was a fun night for me.
Thank you, Suzanne. That was awesome. We thank you very much for taking the time coming out in the rain. Okay, so Suzanne is going to hand over the wireless mic to our next speaker, that is Bianca Rema?
Oh, Rema.
Rema, okay.
My middle name was on there.
Oh, sorry. Yes, Bianca Rema. Anyway, Bianca is from Indianapolis, and she is a recent graduate from IU in Bloomington, where she studied community health. And she joined the IU School of Nursing as a community outreach specialist to work on an NIH-funded research project, which I think you're going to tell us a little about. And her main area of expertise is community health, health education, and community engaged research. I also will add to that and call her a connector, as I often call our friend here, Barb, who connects me with all these different people and networks, because Bianca actually reached out to me via one of our ads on local TV stations, I think, and she arranged a meeting, and I was surprised at how young she was because she's much more mature than I am. In a good way. I mean, she's very informed, and she has been a great person to introduce me to people already. I mean, she is why we have the Alzheimer's Association here with us. So thank you so much for coming.
There we go. Can we give a round of applause for Suzanne? I really appreciated that presentation. I'm glad our friends from the Alzheimer's Association got to make it today. But basically, I just wanted to give a little spiel about a project that we're working on at the IU School of Nursing, and we're actually partnered with the Alzheimer's Association and a few other organizations to do this project. But the project that we're doing is called CARE, or the Collaborative for Aging Research and Engagement. But before I start talking about CARE, I need to talk a little bit about community engagement and what it is. So according to the CDC, we have the definition right here. Community engagement is the process of working collaboratively with and through groups of people affiliated by geographic proximity, special interest, or similar situations to address issues that are affecting the well-being of those specific people themselves. And so what we are doing with CARE is called community engaged research, which is a research process that involves the input from the individuals who will be impacted by the research outcomes themselves. And so I always think it's important to mention the values of community engagement because it's why I think it's so important. But just to name a few, basically a big thing that we value is mutual understanding of what community is, mutual understanding of what the community and the researchers' roles are, and then also mutual benefits throughout the process. With community engaged research, we want to engage the community from the beginning when we're developing the research question all the way to the end when we're talking about the results. And I just think it's important because if we're doing research that affects a certain population of people, we want to make sure that they're a part of our decision-making process in itself. Yeah. And so the reason why community engaged research is important is that it takes on an ecological approach, which means that it takes into consideration the individual itself, as well as its surroundings, its interpersonal relationships, and its main environment. It also addresses health issues it also addresses health issues directly to community partners and members. It combines multiple community settings for a greater scope and also to see how the research works out in a community setting. It allows for ongoing partnerships, and it also produces culturally relevant research. So with that, I'll talk a little bit about our project itself and what we're doing and why we're doing it. So like I said, CARE stands for the Collaborative for Aging Research and Engagement. This is a 3-year initiative, and it's funded by the National Institutes of Health and the National Institute of Aging. So the main goal of this project is to develop a health education platform to teach people about Alzheimer's and dementia, introduce community resources to individuals, and also encourage research participation in itself. We're focusing on African Americans ages 45 and up, and that is why we're focusing on these 2 regions of Indiana. It has the highest population of Black African Americans. You might be asking, why did we choose that priority population? Well, it's because we have substantially less participation among minority and underrepresented populations. And so we really want to engage them into our decision-making process with how we can teach people about brain health and Alzheimer's and dementia to really encourage these underrepresented groups to actually trust researchers and be a part of the process itself. And so the way that we're doing this is that we'll be holding different research activities and using feedback from the community and using it directly to build this CARE platform. And just a little shout out, we are partnered with the Alzheimer's Association Greater Indiana chapter, and then also a few other IU affiliations and the Indiana Alzheimer's Disease Research Center. So our overall goal is to design, develop, and test the CARE platform, and this cannot be done without the participation of the community. We take their feedback to create the platform. And then eventually we just want to identify what influences people's desire to engage in research and how we can retain their participation. And also so that we can eventually try to scale this work to a state or national level. And this is a little bit more about why I think CARE is important and why it is in general. And that is because the number of Americans aged 65 and older, and I do also want to note that this is also why participating in educational activities like the Alzheimer's Association is also important. The number of Americans aged 65 and older is projected to more than double by 2060, which would be around 24% of the total population. Minorities will make up 40% of the adult population by 2050, and older African Americans are twice as likely to have Alzheimer's disease or related dementia, ADRD, sorry if I didn't specify that, as older whites. And so this also emphasizes why it's important that we're asking directly from underrepresented communities what you want to see, what would make you trust researchers, and why or why not these communities participate in research. And it's hard to understand how Alzheimer's disease or dementia affects a population if we don't have research information on it. And then I just wanted a quick shout out. Part of what makes us a community engaged research project is that we have a community advisory board called the CARE Advisory Team. These people are from both Northwest Indiana and Central Indiana. And I just wanted to bring them up because we run all of our decisions through them first to make sure that we're still valuing the voices of the communities throughout all stages of the research process. So yeah, I just really wanted to share that with everyone to show the work, the great work that we're doing, the Alzheimer's Association, and also just to spread the word about community engaged research because I think it takes on a whole different approach. So in a few years, if you see CARE, just remember this presentation, right? But thank you guys so much. I appreciate all your time, and I had an amazing time tonight myself, so thank you very much. And I guess I should say, does anyone have questions before I hop down here?
It's just a comment. Thank you. I think I just saw something on television last night or the night before about some funding or some activity here about the CARE program.
Oh, really? Yes. We actually had our first research activity this past weekend, and it went really well. But yeah, and then we have our second research activity in a few weekends in Northwest Indiana. So, yes, thank you.
Thank you so much,
Thank you
Bianca.
all. I appreciate it.